Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils found a huge series win in Milwaukee, and their 2 wins in this series incredibly impressive for pretty much the same reason.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in the great city of Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that if you're listening to Locked On Phillies in podcast form, that you're rating and reviewing. We're available wherever you get your podcasts if you haven't checked us out just on the listening side. And that means you've probably been checking us out on the YouTube side. Yeah, you can also watch Locked On Phillies on YouTube. If you're doing that, make sure you're subscribing and hitting that like button. Subscribing will get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's also free and easy to do, so it really helps you out. It really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. You can enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. What a win for those fighting Phils again yesterday. They take down the Brewers 2-0. We're going to react to that and talk about the similarities between that and the first game of the series, the 2 wins for the Phillies up in Milwaukee. You should be feeling pretty darn good if you're a Phillies fan right now. There's also a very interesting number around baseball this year that I want to talk about. I'm not totally sure what it means, but we're going to figure it out together on today's episode. And don't overlook the Marlins, who the Phillies started a series with tonight down in South Florida. Yeah, I'll tell you why. It's a tricky kind of one of those trap game type spots for the Phillies heading down there to play those pesky fish. But we got to start with yesterday against the Brewers. What a performance by Ranger Suarez, first and foremost. He is uncannily good at getting into trouble and then getting out of trouble. Like, I don't know that I've seen anyone like him in a while like that. Some guys just never really get into trouble. Think about like a Zach Wheeler, maybe a Paul Skeens, a Tarek Skubal, the true aces of aces. They go out there, they dominate, they make the adjustments before other guys so that you're never in really a truly sticky spot. Some guys, though, have to live with the danger. And that's what happens when you throw low 90s like Ranger does. You pitch to contact like Ranger does. And sometimes he finds himself in some hot water. Bases loaded, runners on second and third, no outs, different stuff like that that'll get you in a situation, which we saw some of those yesterday for Ranger. Heart rate goes up for everybody, but not for him. And he battled out of a lot of stuff yesterday. Again, he's not looking like the July Ranger Suarez, where it's, I'm going to go strike out 8, 9, 10. I'm going to shut you down. You're not going to have a prayer today because I'm better than you. He's at the point of the season where he's got to work with what he's got. But lately, he has been working with what he's got. He was awesome on the mound, varying up the pitch speeds, inducing weak contact. Great defense behind him as well by the Phillies. Aside from JT Realmuto throwing a ball into center field in the late innings of that game yesterday, it was a damn good defensive game from guys like Bryce Harper, Harrison Bader. We're going to talk about his catch in a second because, man, he took another one back yesterday afternoon out there in Milwaukee. But Ranger was kind of the focal point for me in that game yesterday. Just that's the difference between Nola goes out and gives up 5 and then settles in, or Ranger just settles in for the jump. And while the offense was quiet and they missed opportunities, they were in that game the whole way because Ranger forced them to be. And that's credit to him. That's got to make you feel good about his chances to throw well in October. And while we're talking about that pitching mound out there in Milwaukee, how about the bullpen? How about those guys going out there and just absolutely putting in some work out of the pen in fireman roles in big spots? I mean, listen, We saw it in game one, kind of. That was more of a back and forth type of setup, but we really saw it yesterday when the bullpen stepped up huge in relief of Ranger Suarez. He can't just go out there and throw 9, right? That doesn't happen, especially not for a guy like Ranger who pitches to so much contact and naturally gives up some hits here and there, so his pitch count ends up going up. But David Robertson, great. Matt Strahm, great. Joan Duran, do I even have to say it? Come on. He's always great. Well, pretty much always great, as long as we're not at Citi Field. But I don't need to bring that up today. No, the bullpen was awesome, and Ranger was awesome. And it gave the Phillies offense a chance to go to work. They only had 6 hits in the game. But just like, and you might be saying, Connor, you compared games 1 and 3 of this series. How does a 10-8 win compare to a 2-0 win? Well, because when you had to really buckle down and you had to put those big swings on baseballs, and when push came to shove, the Phillies were the ones shoving. Yeah, in game 1, that was more of a back and forth. They answer, we answer. In this game yesterday, it was more of a nobody has something, so just keep going up there, keep grinding out at bats, and then Trey Turner comes up big after an Alec Boehm triple that probably should not have been a triple. I'm not even talking about the ruling, but the dive out there in right field really opened up the opportunity for him to go to third. Probably could have played that ball better out there, but we'll take it. I'm not trying to take anything away from Boehm. I just wonder if you didn't see the game, you're wondering, how did Alec Boehm get a triple? A bit of a misplay, a bit of an aggressive play, I should say. And then with 2 outs, though, it looked like the Phils were going to leave another guy out there, and Trey Turner comes through big time. He's been huge this year, and if he really is this clutch in October, you're going to love what you get out of that guy. He's starting to pay off that paycheck. And then just when you think, okay, well, you got enough. Duran's coming in the 9th. Let's roll. We're good with the big boy. We'll get out of this. Adding on never hurts. And Harrison Bader and Bryson Stott combined to do that. So I already loved that Harrison Bader was able to get on base and Bryson Stott was able to drive him in. But I love even more that then behind Joan Duran, the rare time where he did have a ball hit hard and elevated off him, Bader just runs to the center field fence and brings it back. I mean, that dude, I can't say enough good things about Harrison Bader. Everyday player. Now, I want to temper some expectations because as much as when the Phillies are not playing their best, here's why they're still a good baseball team. When there's a guy that's as hot as Bader is right now and doing everything it seems the right way, he's not a 350 hitter. He's not, okay? He's not a 300 hitter. He's probably about 260, 270 when everything's all said and done. And he's going to have points where he cools off a little bit. We'll ride this hot stretch. But if this is the bar that you're setting for him, there will be points over the next 22 games, which is how many of the Phillies have left, that he doesn't look like this guy. And I don't want this fan base to turn on him because I think this team is best with Bader in center field. If you're debating that at this point, if you want anybody else on this team playing center field, and I'm not saying, oh, call up Justin Crawford. I get it. I wanted Crawford up too. But that ship has sailed at this point. On this current roster, there is no better center fielder against righties or lefties than Harrison Bader. He is out there every single day if it's up to me. Now, we did see Max Kepler in right, and we saw Brandon Marsh in left. I mean, Castellanos got a day off yesterday, and it wasn't just one of those scheduled days off like we, haven't really seen for him either. Last year, he played all 162, Castellanos did. We're in a clear full platoon in the outfield. It honestly feels like there's only one spot that I wouldn't platoon, and that's Bader in center field. Marsh can play left, and I would like Marsh playing left every day. But if he gets cold, goes through one of those strikeout spells, or if it's a tough lefty, I wouldn't mind seeing Weston Wilson. I wouldn't mind seeing Max Kepler, depending on matchup and how you feel about it. And then Castellanos in right, him and Kepler are kind of rotating over there too. So a lot of stuff that the Phillies are working with. And Rob Thompson, I mean, when we get done this season, I don't know how it's going to end. But I will tell you right now, barring something crazy happening over the final 22 games of the season, give Rob Thompson his flowers. I'll say it again. Give the man his flowers. He's been working with an outfield rotation at pretty much every spot since the trade deadline. And they've just been winning. And that's not easy to do, to press those right buttons. A lot of managers in baseball, or some managers, I should say, I don't want to say a lot because I don't know what the actual number is, but they're set it and forget it guys. Here's basically our lineup. If this guy needs a day off, that guy gets a day off. Do you know how many managers in baseball would have the gall to run basically like a triple platoon, 3-man weave in the outfield? Like it's an old practice in Hoosiers. That's a lot of guts because that's putting a lot on your back, right? If you just trot guys out there, it's easy to say, this guy's not good enough. That guy's not good enough. But when you're Rubik's cubing the outfield day in and day out, you are leaving your fingerprints all over the game. And when they turn out like they did yesterday, Rob Thompson looks like a pretty darn smart man. Now, does that mean I think he's a perfect manager? No. Does that mean he doesn't have his pitfalls from this season that may pop up again? No, it doesn't mean that. But it does mean that he deserves credit for the job he is doing, handling the picks in the outfield. Now, is it a Icarus type of situation where maybe you're flying too close to the sun and relying on this will leave you with melted wax wings come postseason, ungracious fall into the ocean below? Look up your Greek mythology if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. Basically, is doing this something that's giving them fool's gold, and then you're going to end up in the postseason regretting it because you relied too much on something that maybe wasn't a true solution? You can live that way if you want. Maybe you're right, maybe you're not. Time will tell. But right now, I know he's pressing the right buttons. And this team is winning and taking down those Brewers in the game they did in Game 1, the game they did in Game 3. Those are, here's the comparison, really tight back and forth games like we talked about, or just tight games all the way through where no team is scoring. Playoff type atmospheres on the road against the best team in baseball by record. And the Phillies went in there and told them, yeah, we're ready to play with y'all if we see you in October. I love to see that. It literally is just the Mets that they, like, I can't stop bringing it up. I can't. It's so in my head because they're so good against everybody else. They will see those Mets coming up on the other side of this weekend. That's part of the reason why we're talking in the final segment about why you can't overlook the Marlins. But next, I have this weird thought in my head that I've thought about in passing a time or two. And now that we're into the 140 game range for most teams in games played, it seems pretty certain that something is going to happen for most teams, if not all teams in baseball. What is it? Why does it matter? And where does it come from? An interesting number comes your way next as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, let's talk about our friends over at Zippix, though, because if you need a boost to power through the day without reaching for another cup of coffee or an energy drink, that's where Zippix caffeine toothpicks come in. I was up late last night, as I'm sure most of you were. I'm wearing my Jalen Hurts jersey, my Eagles hat, and Birds are 1-0. And it took them to 1 a.m. Eastern time to do it because of a lightning delay. So I was tired today. And that's why I use Zippix, because they give you a clean, convenient burst of caffeine anytime, anywhere. And if you're looking for that nicotine satisfaction, they've got Zippix nicotine toothpicks as well. There's a lot of great chances where you might need energy and need something quick and you don't want anything. I don't know. I don't want a whole can of an energy drink. Toothpick in your mouth, super easy, low key, discreet, and it will give you the energy you need to make it through your day. Ready to try them? I think a lot of people in Philadelphia are today. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com and use promo code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. That's zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Zippix Toothpicks, spelled Zippix. Energy and focus anytime you need it with our friends over at Zippix Toothpicks. All right, stay with me on this one, because it's a weird thing happening in baseball this year. I don't remember it. Maybe if I'm misremembering something, you can tell me if this is a more common thing. But in my experience following the baseball standings, it is not. And I just gave a little bit away there. It has to deal with the standings. So right now, the Philadelphia Phillies have 22 games to play. They have 81 wins. That is tied for the second most in all of baseball with the Toronto Blue Jays. Those Brewers you just faced, they're 86 and 55. They actually have 21 games left to play. So you're getting down near the end, right? And there's something really intriguing that's happening around baseball this year. I can't remember the last time I saw it. I would be willing to say there is a good chance that you do not see a team reach the 100 game threshold this year. There was a point just a couple of years ago where we had 2 teams in the NL East that won 100 games. This year, 22 games left. The Phillies would need to win 19 of those to hit the 100 game mark. You think they're really going to go 19-3 the rest of the way? I think they're a good baseball team, but I don't think they're that good. Same for the Toronto Blue Jays. The Milwaukee Brewers at 86-55. They'd have to do a little bit less, but they'd still have to win significantly more. They'd have to rip off like a 7 or 8 game win streak, which we know they can, but that's the pace they'd have to play to even hit that mark. Could they do it? Sure. But more likely than not, they won't. Which means, in my opinion, it's more likely than not that we do not have a 100-game winner in baseball this season. And that's rare. Because normally that 100-game win mark is the line of demarcation from the good to great playoff teams and the elite playoff teams. The elites are the ones where you see rolling in 101, 102, 103 win seasons. Remember way back in March when we were talking about the season? It's like, well, the Dodgers, they might win 120 games. They might be unstoppable. They're sitting down there at 78 wins. If the Dodgers won out, they would equal 100 games. They're not going to win out. They will lose other games. They just got swept by the Pirates. So the Phillies are going to have a chance to make sure of that by even just taking 1 game off of them. And the Phillies have already won a series against them. So you get the point of what's weird. Now, what does it mean? I don't know what's causing it. I got to be honest with you. I don't know if it is the later trade deadline. That would be my biggest theory, or not later trade deadline, but the heavier trade deadline with the extended postseason, because more teams are in it. There's less of an all-in ability for the top teams. Like, you can't just go corner the market and say, yeah, there are really 4 teams that can win this thing. Everybody else is out. So we are going to hoard the prospects and then trade them away at the deadline to bring in all of the great players that we'd be able to add to our roster to supplement. No. There are like 13, 14 buyers at trade deadlines with the expanded postseason. So maybe that's why the pack is condensed a little bit. But that's also the point, right? The condensing of the pack, that is what no team reaching the 100-game win mark shows me. And is that a good thing or a bad thing for a team like the Philadelphia Phillies? I don't know, honestly, because part of me wants to say, oh, well, that's a bad thing. More tight competition means more teams that could potentially knock you off. More of these teams that seem viable playoff contenders that all kind of exist in the same sphere. Like just in the distance from, because the Brewers are up at 86 wins. Let's just go 81 wins to 78 wins. That's 3 games of difference in the win column. You have the Toronto Blue Jays, Philadelphia Phillies, Detroit Tigers, Chicago Cubs, Los Angeles Dodgers, New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox. All right in there, within 3 games in the win column from each other. I believe they may also be within 3 games in the standings of each other. That's just, it's a lot of teams all put together there. And naturally, more teams that are around your level means tougher competition. But what logic would tell me is, well, teams didn't just get better all of a sudden, right? Excuse me. Still fighting that cold. But it's not like all of these teams are equal. I think we will see some weird, hey, this team's going to make it with this record, but maybe that record is lying to us. This team's going to make it maybe a lesser record, but maybe they're better than that record shows. The Dodgers are a prime example. The whole muddling up of the middle of the pack of baseball playoff teams has led to a much tougher evaluation of who's really who. Ask yourself, does it feel like the Brewers can make a deep run at this thing? They have the best record in baseball. Maybe you say no. The Blue Jays, best record in the American League. The Tigers, Phillies, Cubs, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Astros, Padres, Mets. I mean, these teams all have postseason pedigree to some extent, and they all have strong records to indicate that they are in the mix here. I wouldn't tell you that all of them are, but I look at it and I say, wow, it is very difficult to predict who's going to knock who off, because if you go with the tried and true which team is better method, well, the records don't indicate that they have been. If you go with the record, the talent level doesn't seem to indicate that they're ready to keep that going over the course of the postseason. What does this all break down to? Well, we're in for a wild and wacky October in Major League Baseball, and there are a lot of dangerous teams. That could be a scary thing or that could be a good thing, because you could wake up one day and your path to the World Series could be a series against, I don't know, let's say the Chicago Cubs, and then a series against these Brewers. That would be a lot less daunting to me than a series against the Dodgers and the Mets back-to-back, right? So this could fall in the Philadelphia Phillies' favor, and we may not even know until it does. But that's something to keep an eye on, is how tight baseball is. And it's just a reminder to everybody out there who gave up on this team in June, July, August, and will still give up on this team at some point in September if they go through a tough stretch. The door is wide open. There is no kingpin out there waiting. If there is one, they're the Brewers, and the Phillies just went into their building and took 2 out of 3 from them and didn't even play their best baseball. So keep the faith. I'm at least letting you know that you need to hold out hope that the Phillies still have a run at this thing, even though the problems exist. Excuse me. And the rotation still needs to be figured out. The bullpen needs to be settled. The outfield is a revolving door. The Phillies are in as good a spot as any team in baseball to win the whole damn thing. And that's as we sit here on September 5th, 2025. Now, the season ain't over. And while the Phillies just had a big series, there's no time to overlook anything. That's why coming up next, when we preview this upcoming series with the Miami Marlins, the number one thing I need to see from the Phillies is, well, I'll tell you in a second as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, we got to talk about 5-Hour Energy, though. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime-flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. I think that this is going to be a great weekend for golf up here in the Northeast. The weather looks outstanding. And if you're an Eagles fan like me, well, you can get some early football in because the Birds already, early golf in because the Birds already played. You could be a little bit late to the 1 o'clock kickoffs, get out on the course, but you might be tired. There's a lot of weekend football with college and a Friday night game in Brazil. So if you get out on the course this weekend or wherever you're going, you realize, hey, I'm a little bit tired. Snap into one of those 5-Hour Energy Transfusions. They're great, man. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. And the grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the Bev car. And now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip and visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. I'm begging you, Phillies. I am. I really am, because I can't take this. You've been doing this so well. I'm so proud of you. I am. I think I speak for the fan base when I say this is what we've been waiting to see. Not me coughing for the 1,000th time this episode. No, you're going on the road to a playoff opponent, standing up and saying, we're here, we think we're the better baseball team, and we're going to prove it. A huge win over the Brewers. And you've got a big-time 4-game series with the Mets at Citizens Bank Park coming this next week. I need you so focused on the New York Mets and not letting what happened in New York happen on your home field, because that would be a nightmare. They're trying to chase you down for the division still. That may be the biggest series of the rest of the year. And what do you forget in the midst of all that? Those Miami Marlins sitting down there in South Florida who have played much better baseball recently. They're not a postseason team, but at 65-75, only 10 games below 500, they have been much better than a lot of people gave them credit for this year. Now, should the Phillies lose to that team? Well, not a series, maybe a game. But if you get caught up looking at, hey, we just beat the Brewers, we're feeling ourselves a little bit. Or we get to come home and show those Mets who's boss at the bank. Big time series. You can't overlook it. Every game at this point, it counts, right? Or at least every series is mission critical. I talked to you, I think I brought it up, but we talked about it on the radio recently where we had a texter after, I forget what series, with the Braves, where you took 3 of 4. And the texter's point was, you can't drop that 4th game. Every game is mission critical. And I countered with every series is mission critical. As long as you win series from here on out, you're going to find your way to where you need to be because you have that big enough lead in division. And you now have a 3-game lead over the Dodgers. But the Marlins are one of those teams, man, where if you lose focus, they can bite you. And I can't have that happening, especially when you have the pitching setup that you do in this series. You have Christopher Sanchez going in game 1. Great opportunity for you to go out there and get your ace on the mound and try and get a win. I'd like to see one of those dominating performances from Sanchez. The more of those we get, the better we're going to start to feel about game 1 of a postseason series. Then you get Jesus Luzardo in his old building. We know that every time he steps on the mound against the Marlins this year, there was going to be emotion. There was going to be fire. There was going to be a, I'm going to stick it to you type of thing. You traded me away in division. This is what you get. I love that motivation. And I like what I've been seeing out of him for the most part lately. And then Taijuan Walker goes in the final game of this series. And hey, he didn't really get the job done against the Brewers, but more often than not, he's been giving you serviceable starts that give you chances to win, which is essentially what he did in the first game of that series against the Brewers. So you have the pitching relatively lined up. And while the Marlins have been playing better baseball overall, they still don't have the talent to keep up with the Philadelphia Phillies on paper. But if the Phillies lose their focus, that's going to be a situation where you start to say, okay, now all of a sudden we let the Marlins hang around in a game they should not be in. They steal that one game. We drop another game that we were kind of expecting to, maybe the Taijuan Walker game, and all of a sudden you've lost 2 of 3 to the Miami Marlins, and you're sitting here thinking, what in the world happened? And then you're reeling with the Mets coming into town trying to knock you down. Now, the Marlins have lost 3 straight coming into this series. They are 4-6 in their last 10, though. So they're not, pardon the fish pun, totally floundering. You are getting them at a time, though, where you seem to be on a roll. They seem to be cooling off. I always get scared of teams that can play spoiler down the stretch. The Marlins know they're not going to the postseason. So what can they play for? Oh, hey, our division leaders coming in here, and we know they're in a tight race at the top of the standings with a couple teams. What if we made our impact on the postseason by changing the Phillies seeding and taking 2 or 3 from them? And they're still playing, right? And they're still a Major League Baseball team. It's not like you're playing those Colorado Rockies who have already been officially eliminated and sit at 39-101. My goodness. You remember I said there won't be a 100-win team this year, or it doesn't look like it? There's already a 100-loss team. Tough year again out there in Colorado. But the Marlins aren't just going to lay down and die. And they've got some guys that have been playing solidly as of late. You look at their big names. Kyle Stowers is leading the team in home runs, average, and RBI. So that's the guy to stay away from when you look at the Miami Marlins. But they got a couple other dudes that have been swinging it a little bit this year when you look at the averages. You look at Xavier Edwards, and he's a guy that has been batting .281 in a big sample size this year. He's been able to put a lot of balls in play. He's really their, I guess, kind of replacement guy to, why is his name escaping me right now? Padres. Luis Ariz. The Marlins always seem to have one of those really good contact hitters that hangs around. They have a couple of guys that can power the ball out of the yard. I just got to look this up. Griffin Conine. It's so weird. I saw G. Conine down there for the Marlins, and the immediate thing I thought was Jeff, even though he spelled it with a J. Jeff Jenkins was the one who spelled it with a G. See, I'm in a fever dream of being up all late night for the Eagles last night. But the Marlins have a bunch of guys who are just guys and a couple of dudes who can hurt you. And if you lose focus at any point in this series, they're going to. So take care of the 3-foot putt. Win 2 out of 3. Ideally, the first 2 games of this series, so we're not hanging on a Taijuan Walker start. And then, and only then, can you turn your attention to the New York Mets. That's my task for the Phillies this weekend. Take care of business. I think this team is zoned in, and I think they will. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. Make sure you're still checking out Locked On Phillies postcasts, immediate reaction to every game, right here on the same YouTube channel and podcast feed with our guy Mark Farzetta, who handles that for us. And I will talk to you on the other side of the Marlins series on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Hopefully it's a good one for you. Go Phils, go Birds, and we'll talk next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.